This is the story of a fisherman named John, who, like every day, sets out to fish in his small boat. But on this day, something different happens. Suddenly, a thick fog descends, making everything impossible to see. John loses his way and, wandering around, spots a deserted boat. Out of curiosity, he ties his boat to the boat and decides to go inside. As soon as he gets inside, he's stunned. The boat is completely empty. No people, no sounds. Just a mysterious silence. When John enters the mysterious boat, everything seems perfectly normal. The food is fresh, the clothes are neatly arranged, and there are signs of human presence everywhere. But no one is there. He tries to start the boat, but the engine won't work. John is astonished to see the boat, alone and empty in such a vast ocean. He tries to look around with binoculars, hoping someone might be nearby. But the thick fog has obscured everything. Disappointed, he returns to the control room and turns on the radio, hoping to send a signal for help. John radios, "This boat is stranded at sea. If anyone is listening, please respond." After sending the message, he decided to return to his small boat. But when he emerged, his boat was gone, even though he had tied it securely. His surprise only grew. He saw that the fog had suddenly cleared, and the sky was clear. It was now noon. John couldn't understand what was happening. Seeing no other way back, he returned to the empty ship and began searching for directions using a map. John now tried to understand where he was and how he could return home. The problem was that the mysterious boat's engine was out of order. If he was to escape, he had to repair it at all costs. He searched the entire ship for a toolbox and, after much effort, managed to fix it. This was a huge relief for him. The boat was now afloat, and the direction was slowly becoming clear. But the danger was still averted. John went to the control room and contacted the radio again. But this time, there was no response. Everything was still shrouded in mystery. Then the boy came up and suddenly needed to go to the toilet. No one was around, so he decided to do it in the sea. As he reached the shore, someone suddenly pushed him from behind. He fell straight into the water. The situation was extremely dangerous. But he somehow managed to save himself from drowning by holding on to the reel. The pressure of air and water was so great that it became difficult to get back to the boat. But he did not give up. He gathered courage and slowly pulled himself up onto the reel and climbed back onto the boat. Despite all this, his task was not completed, so he tried to go to the toilet again. As soon as he reached the bottom, someone suddenly slammed the door shut. John initially thought it was the wind and ignored it. But when he tried to get out, he found the door locked from the inside. He was shocked. He tried everything to open the door. He even took a coin from his pocket and stuck it in the lock. But all was in vain. Now he began to feel that he wasn't alone on this ship. There was someone troubling him, invisible but always present. He felt as if someone was playing tricks on him. He shouted loudly, "Please, whatever you do, open the door. I'm not a thief, I've just come to take a look." But there was no response. Now he understood that hoping for help was futile. He went to the cabin, and what he saw inside terrified him. There were bloodstains. The atmosphere was terrifying, but he ignored his fear and picked up a pair of scissors and tried to open the door. But the lock still wouldn't open. Just then, the entire ship began to shake violently, as if something terrible was about to happen. John was terrified. Then his eyes fell on an upstairs window. He managed to climb out and looked around. In the distance, he saw a huge cargo ship approaching him, heading straight for him. John realized that if the ship collided, everything would be over. He had to save his life at all costs. He thought of signaling, but he had nothing. He immediately took off his shirt and started waving it vigorously so that someone on the cargo ship could see him. But alas, despite all his efforts, no one noticed him. Now John had to save his life at all costs. If his boat continued moving, it could collide with the cargo ship and end everything. Then he noticed a rope hanging near the window. An idea immediately came to his mind. If he used this rope, he might be able to stop the ship. He quickly tied the rope and threw it out, stopping the boat's movement. But the situation worsened. The rope got caught in the engine fan and, while being pulled into the bathroom, got stuck around his neck. He began to suffocate. On the verge of death, he mustered courage and freed himself with a tool. His neck turned completely red. He was almost dead. But at the last moment, he managed to save himself. The rope caught in the engine, slowing the ship's speed. But that wasn't enough. The heavy cargo ship still collided with it. The powerful impact shook his ship severely, and John fell unconscious to the ground. He suffered a severe head injury. When he regained consciousness a little later, he saw that the bathroom was filled with water. But the most surprising thing was that it wasn't salty seawater, but crystal clear, sweet water. As if someone was deliberately trying to scare him. "Oh," he begs again, brokenly. "Whoever you are, please let me go." But still no response. Now he was hungry, thirsty, and extremely weak. He somehow managed to drink water from the bathroom shower, but soon realized it was gone. Then, when he tried to drink from the sink, he was shocked. The water had turned salty. He immediately realized that there was a hole somewhere in the boat, and seawater was pouring in. This boat wouldn't last long. He panicked and tried to open the door, but it seemed someone had locked it from the outside. It was nighttime, and from above, it appeared that some invisible, perhaps evil, force was controlling the boat. The water was rising rapidly, and John, exhausted, fell asleep. That night, a terrible storm blew up the boat, severely damaging it and severely injuring John. When he woke in the morning, the water had reached his head, leaving only his face exposed. Now, he felt like he had only a few moments left. Suddenly, a soft click sounded, as if something had been unlocked. As John turned the handle, the door swung open with a loud bang. The water pressure was so intense that it shattered the door, and that was how he managed to escape. Once out, he went straight to the roof of the boat to breathe fresh air, as the oxygen below had nearly dried up. He was now convinced that some invisible force was tormenting him. He was physically and mentally exhausted, and the water was steadily rising below. He realized that the boat could sink at any moment. John had decided he wouldn't stay on this ship. Then an idea struck him. He removed airbags from the ship and used the broken bathroom door to create a small raft. He tied everything together tightly so the raft would stay afloat. But he needed other essential supplies to operate the raft. He collected food, water, and necessary tools from the ship and prepared himself thoroughly. Then, without looking back, he disembarked, boarded a raft, and slowly began to move forward into the sea. He was on the raft, and the same large boat was still standing in front of him. Several hours passed, but neither did he go far, nor did the boat, which he thought would sink in 5 to 10 minutes, sink. It remained in the same condition. Then an idea struck him. If the boat hadn't sunk yet, why not fix its leak? If that happened, he could travel comfortably in this sturdy boat. With this thought in mind, he returned to the boat. First, he repaired the leak. Then, using pipes and tools, he constructed a pump to pump out the water. With the help of the pump, the seawater slowly drained out of the boat. After fixing the leak and removing the water, he fixed the rest of the ship's problems, and also made external repairs to prevent further problems on the journey. After finishing, he tried to call for help again by radio. But this time too, there was no response. Disappointed, he returned, took out the map, and tried to navigate again. He tried to move the boat. But as soon as he started the engine, the boat didn't move at all. It was as if it had betrayed him again. The boat was completely still, as if rooted in the water, and this thought was crushing him from within. He was completely exhausted. Hope was fading. Then, in the distance, he saw another ship approaching. Now he had only one option, to reach that ship on his small raft. He immediately boarded the raft and quickly headed towards it. But then, the ship suddenly began to move and accelerate towards John, as if someone had deliberately sent it towards him. John increased his speed. But the huge ship accelerated even faster, and just before it collided with him, John made a last attempt and decided to jump from his boat and swim to another boat that seemed to be moving away. But by the time he reached there, the boat had disappeared. Then he realized that there was some evil force aboard this mysterious boat, preventing him from leaving. He had decided that he would never return to it, even if it meant his life. But by evening, the water grew colder as he floated in the water. Dolphins were swimming below, but the water temperature had dropped drastically. Unable to bear the cold, he was forced to return to the boat. He was so tired and sick that he was in no condition to think. He simply wrapped himself in a blanket and went to sleep in his room. When he woke in the morning, he decided to leave the ship again. But now he received another shock. The door to the room was locked. He was terrified and slowly began to mentally break down. He couldn't understand why all this was happening to him. Then his eyes fell on a small cabin in the room. As he opened it, he saw a passage upwards, a ventilation opening that led to the exit. He entered the cabin, which was a cramped storage area. Every time he tried to climb out of the storage area, he slipped and fell. He suffered several injuries from the fall, but he refused to give up. Falling repeatedly, he finally reached the top and tried to open the vent. But it wouldn't budge. It seemed as if it had been deliberately sealed. The oxygen in the cabin was rapidly depleting, making it difficult to breathe. The door downstairs was also locked. He couldn't get back into the room. He began to feel that this was his last moment. But then he heard that mysterious click again. As soon as the cabin window clicked, the sound of the boat's roaring sound opened, and John wasted no time in getting out. The fresh air brought him some relief. He saw the boat heading towards a small island. This filled him with hope that perhaps he would be free from this terrifying boat forever. As soon as the boat reached shore, he immediately disembarked. He felt that someone on the island was responsible for all this. In a rage, he picked up a stick and began searching the island, but was soon astonished. There was no sign of a human being on the entire island. Now John was filled with anger and fear again. As he left the island, a new sight appeared before his eyes. The same mysterious boat that had brought him here was now moving through the calm sea, as if searching for another prey. This sight convinced John that this boat and this island were under the control of some evil force. He had to get away at all costs. His life was still left. He searched and reached the highest peak of the island, and from there, he saw another island in the distance. But he was so far away that he couldn't see what was happening there. As John wandered around the island, he slowly came back. But when he reached there, his eyes widened. It was the same place where his journey had begun. Everything was the same. His old boat was tied up in the same place, and the same people were there, as if nothing had changed. The entire atmosphere was the same as before, as if nothing had happened. John watched everything intently. He couldn't believe that this experience, which seemed like a nightmare, had actually happened to him. But now the question arose, how did his boat get there again? And what was the truth about this island? When John reached the back of the island, he was astonished. The same place, the same boat, the same people. As if nothing had changed. He couldn't believe whether it was all real or a nightmare. But what he had experienced was the truth.